Looks like my camera's messed up. I did receive word that that was the case yesterday. Now it's laggy. Let's see. This is kind of working. Okay. Anyhow, today I'm going to see if I can finish up this. Whoa, camera's all messed up. Well, I'll figure that out at some point, but camera's not the important part here. Today, I'm going to see if I can finish up writing the future directions section in this paper. Additionally, I am going to skip over using VS Code because that linter was really getting under my skin. So, all right. Yeah, I guess so I've been messing around with which camera to use. I've got two different ones listed. This one uses Motion JPEG. I really don't like that, but whatever. Let's see. Yeah, and now it's itty bitty. So let me make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so now you should be able to see me and see this. Today I'll be listening to Andrew WK's album from 2018. Genuinely one of the best albums I've heard in I don't know how long. It's rarely been outside of rotation. Okay. So, we got to talk about future directions for YT. So I'm going to try to divide this up into improvements to existing systems, new features, um, and well, optimizations is kind of covered under that first one. So let's see. General. How about quality of life? And I'll change this back to internal systems. And we'll talk about. So here's static typing. We'll put under quality of life, integration, optimization. Testing infrastructure we'll put there. Integration with other domains besides astronomy. And so this is also a really loaded one. We'll say further integration. Yeah, so I think here refactoring for the long term, put that under quality of life and visual improvement of YT objects. Okay. So one of the things I'm a little bit torn about in coming up with these things is that these are, well, okay, here, let me say a bit more of that. Oh, and actually here, but here, let me get diff. Yeah, so here, hold on. Let me take a look at this in full size. Okay, so this is all the linter from VS Code. So I'm actually going to... Oh wait, what's that at the bottom? Yeah, that's the... Do I have my Vim session open? I do, alright. Yep. Git checkout, and we'll call this future directions. Check it out from main. Okay, so now we're in a new branch for future directions. Let's see. Much improved optimization. Testing infrastructure. Also, at some point, I got to go back through and come up with the, or I got to go back and fix all my internal references. Because I'm switching between underscores and dashes. Okay, much improved optimization. Better. You know what? I'm going to put in here. Forward-looking utilization of accelerators and oriented programming. I don't know. Because that it would be nice, but that's a really long-term thing. And it's not clear to me that, well, it's not totally clear to me that I need to be too explicit about that here. So, improvement to internal systems. So here, the first thing we got to talk about is optimization. No, let's see, development procedure. So here, I'm going to reference answer testing. So let's accumulate these references here. Optimization. Let's see, this is abstraction simulation types. We'll discuss section chunking. We've got to do grid analysis as well. Okay, what I'm going to do. Let me check the pull request. I'm going to put this reference in here anyway, even though it's going to cause a conflict because I do want it. And I'm going to mention it. So those are the big ones there. What just happened? My music stopped. Looks like maybe your account is being used on another device. Listen on this device instead. That probably means somebody downstairs is trying to play music. You know what I'll do? I know what I can do. This should work. Yeah, alright. So the kleptones. Yeah, here we go. I'll just go ahead and play kleptones. That should show up in my media player. Does it? Looks like it doesn't. What if I do MPV? about Rhythmbox will do it. All right. I'll manage that over on a different screen. I'll just listen to, no, I don't want to listen to that one. I really do want to listen to, man, Rhythmbox. I don't know how to use this darn thing. There we go. All right. Now, start here, Peak District. Does that show up? Well, it hasn't yet, but maybe it will. Well, anyhow, I guess I won't have my now plane showing up. Ugh, boy, sure got distracted by that, huh? Optimization. The internal selection, I/O, and cachings. The internal systems that conduct selection, caching, and I/O optimization. Oops. I hate it when I do that. That's super weird. Okay. The internal systems that conduct selection, caching, and I/O optimization. Data processing and parallel load distribution have been designed for general purpose application. While this enables code reuse as well as, I mean, basically the problem that I need to try to convey here is that YT sacrifices some of its optimization in favor of generality. And so I need to find an elegant, non-blathery way to say that. Well, this enables considerable code reuse, as well as extensibility across different. Why is extensibility? Well, this enables code reuse as well as consistent API patterns. The implementation methods have not always kept up with the methods used to implement it these systems internally in YT have not always kept up with the optimizations available. For example, let me pull up selection. Let's see, data objects. The data selection routines described in, how do I reference a section? I had to look this up last time too. Yeah, I guess it's just @sec. For example, the data selection routines described there are often rely on generalities when regarding coordinates. So the real problem here, okay, so the data selection routines are not uniformly optimized to take advantage of built-in organizational information from grid, octree, and particle data. So one of the big examples here is that moving to a chunking system resulted in projections being slightly less optimized. So let me describe that. Projection. Do I describe quad trees anywhere? A particular example is the quad tree projection. Do I do hash section? When using grid or octree based, this probably needs a hyphen at the end of it, data sets, there is some information that can be supplied, but the you know what, I'm not sure I really want to go into detail on this one. This takes, oh yeah, semantic line breaks. This projection method can be optimized for octree datasets for some speedups and memory improvements, which would likely then be shared with grid datasets. But the maintenance and implementation costs have not are not currently balanced in favor of that change. Future iterations on YT will necessarily need to take these possible optimizations into account in order to meet the needs of increasing data set size and complexity. Other more mundane optimizations can also be applied. I think that comment can go away. So I think what I need to say here is basically that while utilizing units for all array-based operations, C provides a provides safety and clarity of the quantities being manipulated. And here, this is actually a really key one. So it's tough to 100% get this it's tough to 100% study this exactly, because most of the profilers that are easiest to interpret are tracing profilers. We've used some sampling profilers in the past, but basically the tracing profilers overblow some things because of the Python overhead that they implement. So we've looked at this, but it still seems likely that inside some of the tight loops in Cython, there is unit manipulation going on. Unit manipulation itself is not necessarily slow, but what it brings with it from SymPy slows things down a fair bit. And I think part of that is because a lot of these things aren't necessarily designed to be used inside tight loops. It doesn't, it's not really what they're for. But we're very often verifying that something is in the units that it often, almost without exception, is. And so this involves creating a whole hierarchy of SymPy objects and then doing comparisons across them. Anyway, while utilizing units for all array-based operations provide safety and clarity of the units being manipulated, it also introduces overhead from the symbolic manipulation of those units. For example, typically the units used for position inside YT are all in the internal index space of the data set. For some cosmological simulations, these are normalized to 1.0. For other simulations, they may be in centimeters or kilometers. And often there is a factor of h somewhere in the units. There is some factor of the Hubble constant somewhere in the units, which is typically an input parameter to the simulation. Okay. However, we cannot guarantee that all input coordinates to selection routines match this index space. In fact, it is guaranteed that we should not. In fact, doing so would. I need a fancier way of saying something like undermine. Doing so would negate would render utilizing a unit library unnecessary. As a result, YT converts units inside selection. Hold on. YT conducts a regularization of units inside selection routines to ensure that they are that they are comparable, that they are the same in the quantities being compared or evaluated. This requires manipulation of symbolic math operations in SymPy, which can at times carry with them substantial overhead. Often, even verifying that units are identical requires expensive operations to be conducted. Despite the fact that so this is a major problem. To alleviate this, providing some measure of immutable units or index guaranteed units, which can then and thus enabling the unit conversion and the unit comparison process to be elided, would enable, this is the whole thing here is basically we want to stop having to do this comparison, or stop even having to check. So I guess would enable avoiding any, would eliminate many expensive operations inside selection routines. This would likely have the biggest impact on operations like ghost zone generation, which can okay, so there are two big optimizations. IO special casing and now I need to describe grid visiting. Last one that I'm going to do for today is I'm going to talk about grid visiting. So let's see. Another high-level, high-impact possible optimization is a conversion of the underlying infrastructure used for grids into a more optimized, into a more compact and spatially aware dataset. So, data structure. Some work has been executed, while some specifically utilizing an R-tree, an approach that uses the inherent spatial organization of a patch-based grid dataset, often in the form of an R-tree or can reduce the memory and the memory overhead of grid storage. This comes at a cost. So this does come at a cost. It makes it harder to provide basic access to underlying grid objects, which was always something that I wanted to try to preserve, but I think maybe that's not, well, I don't have to get into that too much here, but work has begun in this, calling it a modeling the grid infrastructure after the visitor pattern used in the octree infrastructure. Differences between the two, such as irregular sizes, different refinement patterns per level, has presented some difficulties. However, given a successful implementation, much of the code that provides access to I/O and selection should be able to be moved into optimized tight loop routines written in Python or other lower level languages. I'll put in Rust just to sound cool. So, moving to utilizing these data structures will also enable access to bitmap arrays for caching of selection. For data selection results, reducing overall memory usage and improving performance. All right. So grids. Okay, and I think with that, I am going to call it a day on working on this. Okay, it's just about time to go get the kids. Let me go ahead and create my PR. I'll call this work in progress, future directions. Oops. Yeah, there we go. All right. I forgot to push it. Or I forgot to commit. Okay. All right. Here we go. Writing a paper like this is definitely improving my sense of accountability. I got to figure out what's going on with my now playing script that's usually at the bottom of the screen because it's not showing you that I'm listening to the clep tones. But otherwise, I think that's what I'm going to do for today. So, thanks.